No change in the top 10. Of course, we only had Formula One and NASCAR this weekend, and Max Verstappen's already, as he has done with the F1 World Championship, already clinched our grid ranking championship as well. NASCAR's highest driver is William Byron, 11th, and for the second straight year, no NASCAR driver in the top 10 of the grid ranking. And that will be finalized, of course, with NASCAR ending their season today. First time a NASCAR Cup Series championship driver is not in the grid ranking, ironically enough, as well. So we'll bring Alex back in here for this one, and we'll start with you, Alex. Formula One's been the most dominated series, obviously with Max Verstappen. This year's Cup Series, however, despite the fewer winners from the first year of a next-gen car last year, it's still seen a good amount of parity between the teams and manufacturers. Did you feel like this year was equally as chaotic despite fewer winners, or do you still see, is there any possibility for one particular team or driver or manufacturer to break out next year and kind of go on a Kyle Larson 2021 style run of dominance? Where do you see NASCAR as we look ahead to 2024?
Yeah, NASCAR is in a very interesting position because they have this new Gen 7 car. I don't know if we're going to see someone come out and dominate because you could see Blaney go out and if Blaney of the past few weeks comes out next year, he might go on a tear. You might see Logano have a tear. Logano hasn't really had that yet in his career. I mean, you could have Chase Elliott, you could have Kyle Larson do another tour. William Byron could just really take off. He showed a lot of bright spots this year. Like, there's a lot of guys who could do it, and that's kind of why I don't think we're going to, because there's just too many good guys right now. And with this car, as you mentioned earlier, Ben, these cars are so close right now that I don't know if we're going to see that for quite a while. I don't think we're going to see a Jimmy Johnson like dominance either, especially with how this format is. I don't know, it's really interesting. Just you might see different people shine throughout the next few years. I mean, earlier this year, even within the same season, Denny Hamlin looked like he was the guy. And then it was Kyle Larson, but then Blaney just at the last minute, last three races, last three, 4 races, just that was all you needed. So I don't know about that, but in regards to the season being chaotic, I really don't think it was. Maybe for Truck Series, that was chaotic. But Cup Series, last year was way more chaotic, in my opinion. There was just so much unpredictability. You didn't really know what was going on. But this year, it felt more like the actual racing was the center. And while last year was more on drama, can your car not fall apart? Because like Texas last year was a disaster. Then there was so much penalties going on last year. This year just really felt like it was focused on the actual racing and the drivers rather than off track stuff and negativity. Like, I don't think this year was more chaotic by any means.
I feel the closest team to potentially go break out and get a lot of wins is Hendrick, with what we saw with William Byron. I feel with NASCAR, the season's so long though, as we're seeing, it's not so much how much you could dominate, but when you could get on a hot streak at what key moment. Because as was mentioned earlier, when Ryan Blaney after Talladega, it just seemed a flip went off where top 10 finishes, 12th at the Roval, but he was not in the must win situation at that point. And he goes, gets the championship. If William Byron, I think it just seemed like after Martinsville, where he was just not exactly there, almost. If he had lost three more spots, a couple more spots, it would have been Denny Hamlin that championship for instead. I feel overall the NASCAR Cup Series, it is just a matter of having a perfect race weekend and getting that momentum, that hot streak at the right time. Because Martin Truex Jr. was great all season. Didn't have the most wins, but he was up there, got the regular season championship. Nothing in the playoffs. Just this was one of his best races when he's not a playoff contender no more at Phoenix. I feel the season is just so long compared to Formula One, IndyCar, where you see a driver like Verstappen, Alex Palou dominate. It's just so hard to dominate in NASCAR. The competition's really close. It's amazing the fact that 2 years with this, and Ford has the only championship out of the manufacturers. Next year, you know Chevrolet is determined. Rick Hendrick, that team, they're really strong. I think William Byron is going to be one of the favorites for next year. But again, it's going to come down to getting hot in the postseason, the playoffs, because if you have no momentum in that round of eight, you could kiss your championship chances goodbye because you have a hard time making it through.
Yeah, and of course, to Alex's point, we'll have a full recap of all the chaos from the Truck Series finale and the Xfinity Series and ARCA West finales as well on Grid Live Encore tomorrow. So make sure you stay tuned for that. In the meantime, let's take a look at the rest of the grid ranking here. We only have Formula One, MotoGP, Supercars, and World Rally Championship left in terms of the series that still have to finish out their seasons. Next weekend, only MotoGP, so it will be a regularly scheduled pre-race show, but an unusually early wrap-up show on Sunday following the MotoGP race, and then 2 more weekends of a few races with the 4 remaining series in the grid ranking still finishing out their years.